All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Altcoin Daily, where you subscribe for daily content on everything going on in the cryptocurrency space. Today, it is just Aaron. Austin is doing other things, and we are joined by guest of the channel, Hashoshi. Hashoshi has a great YouTube channel all about cryptocurrency. He often has the daily different brew of coffee and really goes over the big picture stuff in cryptocurrency, different projects. He's a developer and coder by trade. Hashoshi, how are you doing today?
Hey man, living the dream, can't complain. Good times, and yeah, thanks so much for the really kind introduction.
Yeah, of course, man. I love your content. You have such good perspective as a developer yourself. You said that you're mainly the ETH ecosystem is the biggest one, so you're mainly developing user interface stuff with that, but you also work with other projects.
Yeah. I mean, my background, I've just always been a student of tech. I've gone through and I just love to learn about it. And from a smart contract perspective, I have most of my experiences in the world of Ethereum because that's what was around earliest on, and I picked that up sort of early on in those days, and it's been really good to me since then, building out full stack applications that leverage Ethereum and building out smart contracts for things like NFTs and fungible tokens. It's amazing.
Cool. But besides Ethereum, which other blockchains are people asking you to develop on?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interest right now in some of the NFT specific stuff, right? Including the layer twos, right? So talking about things like Polygon, Immutable X, etc. But the Flow blockchain is another one everyone's talking about right now because of the success of Top Shots and people wanting to replicate that success and build out NFT projects in the Flow ecosystem or environment, if you will. But I mean, also some of these other platforms that are starting to have burgeoning DeFi ecosystems. Icon, theoretically Cardano with smart contracts coming. There's like a lot of interest there in building things for the future.
Cool, cool. So I know we're going to dive deep on a project that you like, Elrond. We've talked
Yep.
about them on the channel before. We've had the CEO on for an interview. You like the project. Before we get
Yep.
into that, let me get your general thought on the state of this bull market in general in relation to Bitcoin and Ethereum. I assume you're a big bull on both. How do you think about it?
Definitely. I mean, I think first of all, retrospectively looking back, right, it's been an amazing, period of growth so far, an amazing period of maturity as well, right? There's been a lot of movement and development in the space at large, and a lot of that value has sort of flowed up into Ethereum and Bitcoin, and there's a lot of excitement there. I don't think that the bull run, as we talk about it, is over. I think we're probably in the thick of it, right? But if we're looking back at history, I think that there's still some room to run. And I also think that because of the maturity in the space that's different than in 2013 and 2017, it might play out a little bit differently now. Whether that works in our favor or not, I think is anyone's best guess. But I'm really excited for what the future holds. I think there's institutional interest, obviously, that everyone talks about makes a difference.
Hey, if any of us knew the future, we'd all be rich. But
Right?
just ballparking it, Bitcoin, where do you think it could be near the top of the cycle? Ethereum, where do you think it could be near the top of the cycle?
I mean, I think that it lands. I think that Bitcoin lands over 100K. I would say higher than that, maybe not. Right, so 100 to 110K towards the end. I think Ether is very much dependent on how this EIP 1559 saga plays out. Right, it might not be as straightforward as people think, where they deploy 1559, everyone's happy, deflationary ETH sends us to the moon. I don't know that it works out that way from just a pure governance and tech perspective, but I think it will help. And then ETH 2.0 and the hype there, and seeing if the timelines accelerated could drive, Ether up to some of these milestones people talk about, like the 5,000, the 10,000, but even $3,000 ETH, right? That's not something to scoff at. That's impressive stuff.
True. Very conservative, very real. That's why we like you, Hashoshi.
Yeah.
Before we move on to Elrond, what coins do you hold significant positions in, and how do they relate to your Bitcoin and ETH stack? This is something people always want to know.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I have a lot of, I've been a longtime fan of NFTs, right? And what that manifested in is me holding projects that have been building the NFT ecosystem. So I'm a really big fan of Engine, ENJ. I think they're an amazing project, an amazing team. Their vision's been great. I use their token standard, ERC 1155, all the time. And I really love the project. In terms of other DeFi world stuff too. There's projects obviously with governance tokens that are huge, right? You and I, Uniswap. I still think Uniswap's a fantastic project. There's competition now, but that's going to make them better. And then in the L1 space, Elrond, which we'll talk about, Cardano. People know I'm a fan of it. I have reasons why. It's not just an empty reason, an empty I like Cardano because I like Cardano. Of course, there's so many other ones. I still think Icon ICX has some future, and then interop projects like Cosmos and Polkadot are fantastic and much needed in this space. They're critical to the future.
But compared to your conviction in Bitcoin and Ethereum, as far as how much capital you're allocating, is it comparable to Bitcoin and Ethereum? I'm trying to gauge whether, Bitcoin and Ethereum are such sure things at this point, and everything else comes with risk. Not that they can't be great projects. Do you have your money where your mouth is of sorts? Is there significant holdings in these projects?
Yeah, those are significant holdings. Those are ones that have, significant investment for me that I have in a longer term format, right? It's not quick flips or trades. These are projects that I believe in long term. In terms of their comparison and volume to what I have in Bitcoin and Ether, of course, if I looked at my portfolio, I would probably say Bitcoin and Ether make up more than 50%, maybe close to 50% of my portfolio, and then the rest are sort of a mix of different things out there that I really enjoy.
For sure, for sure. And I find like people who've been in the space a while, who follow the market every day, like you and like me, we take on a little bit more risk because we like to think we have a better understanding of the market. Anyway, let's get right down to it. Let's talk about Elrond. This is a project that they've been doing a lot of big things. They have a great relationship with their community because they're always updating their community and everything that they're doing. So it can sometimes be hard to like understand what exactly Elrond is. So for the folks at home, could you let us know what it is and why you like them so much?
Absolutely. So I think right up front, Elrond is another sort of smart contract platform. It's a high performance layer one blockchain, I think is kind of what they call themselves. And the idea is to take some of the lessons learned from protocols like Ethereum, other protocols that use proof of stake and sharding like Zilliqa and I guess ETH 2.0 to an extent, and to take all those things and mash them up into a blockchain that really can serve the scale that people need for, broad scale DeFi, non-fungible tokens, even just day-to-day transactions amongst individuals, people. And that's really the goal. And so they've taken a lot of, in my opinion, they've done a really good job of curating the best pieces of tech, putting those things together, and making a really functional platform that also has a really good user experience, which is something they thrive at. And it sort of goes back to communicating with the community. That's a big part too.
It sounds to me like you're saying, that they're a competitor with Bitcoin, they're a competitor with Ethereum. Is that the proper way to think about it? Because I tend to think like, oh, we already have a Bitcoin, we already have an Ethereum, and we have the Cardanos and Polkadots. So Elrond's just another thing we have to think about.
I think that if you had to put it in a bucket, right, it would be in the mix with the Ethereums of the world, with the Cardanos of the world, the smart contract platforms that also do pretty well as transaction relay, right? They also do well in peer-to-peer transactions. Maybe they aren't a store of value per se. Of course, that becomes an argument, right? People say, oh, ETH is a store of value. But I really think that it's a platform with utility to build other experiences, DeFi, NFTs, different like prediction markets even. There's so many cool things that you could do with the template that they've given you or that base layer they've given you. And if you want to talk about the tech side, right, they have support for WebAssembly, smart contracts, or execution environments on their blockchain. So you can write your smart contract logic in a wide variety of different standard programming languages that people already know. And so that's a big, help for developer adoption too.
Some people say, a lot of people like Cardano. Charles Hoskinson also has built a great community. Some people say that, Cardano is because they're not fully competitive with Ethereum with smart contracts yet, that they're maybe like a year behind projects like Polkadots or something. Elrond, is that even farther behind Cardano? Is that ahead of Cardano?
I think it's subjective, but if you really look at what's out there, what tooling is available, and what stage they are in terms of garnering adoption for their protocol, I think Elrond is probably in a more advanced stage, mostly because they have those sort of base pieces in place where smart contracts are really the last cog in the machine for Cardano to really bring on a rich dApp ecosystem, which is what they really need, because dApps bring users bring more devs, which create more dApps, and you get that nice flywheel going. Elrond now is going through that process of saying we want to make the user experience so easy and so clean to bring the users, which will then attract those developers to build dApps here in the DeFi world, in the NFT world, to then bring more users. So the approach might be slightly different, but I think ultimately the goals are the same. And Elrond has done a great job with their Myar mobile wallet, which is sort of this beautiful user experience for storing, staking, and sort of your gateway to the Elrond blockchain, where they're also going to have now the Myar exchange. So it's like a sort of money market DeFi space, and a launch pad for dApps. Like, they're doing the right things, in my opinion, to get the protocol off the ground in terms of adoption.
I assume that you think the future will be multi-coin, multi-protocol, where Ethereum's, Cardano's, Polkadot's, and Elrond's can all just interoperate and work together.
Yeah, that is my language. I believe that is how tech has generally worked in the past, and those who try and force a standard on everybody else are the ones who kind of end up getting left behind. It's, especially in a world where we talk about decentralized tech, positive change, giving people options and choices to sort of roll their own journey, to say, well, we're going to now force you to use this protocol, even if you maybe don't want to, or that's not what you're used to using, seems counterintuitive to me. And so I think projects like Polkadot and Cosmos and Icon, etc., shouldn't even be in the same conversation as Ethereum, Elrond, and Cardano, etc., because they are going to be sort of the mesh that connects these layer one chains with their own security guarantees, with their own dApp ecosystem, with their own users to one another. And it's mutually beneficial for all of them to play that game and to say, we're going to work together to build the future that I think we all agree we want.
I love it. And by the way, guys, links to Hashoshi's channel and information down in the description. Everybody needs to follow this guy. If you don't, you either don't like coffee or you don't like crypto.
One of the two.
Yeah, let's get to what I assume will be everybody will be clicking to this timestamp, Hashoshi.
Sure.
You say you're bullish on the project. I was surprised, actually, just looking at the price. And I do hold some eGold tokens. I was surprised. I remember it was less than $10 and $20. Now it's like $180. It's not even like parabolic at this point. It still looks like it could go higher. I know that you're a conservative, thoughtful guy, but I'd love to get a price prediction this cycle or just whatever.
Yeah, so I mean, I could keep the time scale tight, right? Because it's easier to predict something that's closer to you, even though it's still a crapshoot. But
well, I think anything after this year, it's like going to be impossible to predict. So
yeah, because you have no idea how it's going to play out, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, listen, I think that the pieces are there to continue this uptrend, right? And as more money needs to flow into the space, right? We can't keep recycling market cap where people take profits from one thing, go into another, and then they leave that to go to another thing. I think if they can bring meaningful new people into the space to buy eGold, to stake it, take it out of circulation, there is no reason why we couldn't see the price double from here, maybe even get close to $500. Of course, no one can guarantee that. Just based off of the fundamentals and what they're trying to do, if they can pull it off, I don't see why they couldn't get there.
A $500 eGold.
Would be beautiful to see.
Would be beautiful to see, for sure. And, I think like something still really important to drive the price on all these projects, including Bitcoin, whether we're talking about projects with good fundamentals or projects with worse fundamentals, I think like narratives drive, market sentiment so much in the price. And, because Elrond has cultivated such a strong community and they're just constantly updating and like allowing people to share what they're doing, I think, a $500 eGold is possible.
Yeah, man. I think it's a beautiful space to be in. And I think anybody that's watching, right, there's so much depth in every single project to dive into. And I know that it gets overwhelming. I think if you understand what problems that each project can potentially solve, that is enough for you to sort of make a determination as to whether or not this project is going to make an impact. And then you can start diving into how they're going to solve it and, look elsewhere. There's tons of great content out there for you to evaluate.
Anything else on eGold before I get to my final question?
I'm ready for your final question, my friend.
Okay. Is this time different, or are you expecting a bear market in 2022?
Yeah, this is the number one hot question right now. I think candidly, if you have to ask me, despite the fact that you could draw parallels to the stock market, right? I guess like a 9 to 10 year bull market right now, showing that yes, it can happen. I know I talked about this, a couple days ago. The truth is, though, I do think that because the market is still cyclical, the market cap for crypto is still way smaller than the stock market, right? It's not as deeply integrated into people's lives as the stock market is. I still think we're going to get another longer term bear market, though the floor of that bear market, how far we drop, might not be as heavy as it was before based off of some of the institutional interest, more people moving to cold storage and holding on to it, or at least signaling that they want to hold long term. So, I mean, that's my thought. I think we do have a bear market. Maybe it's not as bad as it was in 2018 and prior to that, but you know, maybe I'm unpopular for thinking that.
My personal thoughts is because yeah, that's what a lot of people think. Like perhaps we don't see the 80% drop in Bitcoin, but because this is the first time institutions are here, every other cycle is pretty much led by retail. My personal thoughts are that whatever the next bottom is, it's just going to be that much lower because of institutions. But retail could still send the price really high, and we could still see a
Yeah,
parabolic top then correction.
still possible, man. You never know. I mean, that's the cool thing about crypto, and the scary thing about it is that it does stuff that you never predict could possibly happen.
Hell yeah. Hashoshi, thank you for being on the channel today,
Thank you.
man. It was a real pleasure to have you. Any final thoughts for the audience?
I mean, well, first of all, I want to thank you very much and thank all the folks that are watching. I think if you're in this space right now, just pat yourself on the back because I still think, you're early, right? You're in this space and you're witnessing a huge change in the way the world does business and how we interact with each other, and I think it's super exciting.
Cool. Appreciate you.